On Christmas night, while cheerful lights shimmered through every window and families gathered around warm dinner tables across Chicago, a young woman named Hannah Reeves sat alone in a quiet corner of a restaurant, staring at an untouched plate. Outside the glass walls, snow drifted in slow circles like pieces of fragile hope falling from a sky that seemed too distant to hear her prayers. She had never imagined Christmas could ever feel so hollow, so painfully silent, as if the entire world had somewhere to belong, except her. The weight of the last year pressed on her chest until she could barely breathe. She wasn't there to celebrate. She was only trying to escape the loneliness that waited for her back home. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected moments, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps us keep telling stories that touch the heart. Hannah had spent the last 12 months trying to rebuild her life after losing both her job and her mother within weeks of each other. Her savings had drained, her friends had slowly drifted away with their own busy lives, and her small apartment, once filled with laughter and her mother's singing, now felt like a cold storage of memories she wasn't strong enough to open anymore. This restaurant was the only place she could sit without feeling the emptiness of her home. The warm lighting, soft carols, and sparkle of Christmas decor around her almost convinced her she wasn't invisible. But the truth clung tightly to her heart. She was forgotten, overlooked, and painfully alone. Across the room, families exchanged gifts and shared warm plates of food. Servers moved gracefully from table to table, carrying trays filled with roasted turkey, cranberry sauce, and little gingerbread desserts decorated with white frosting. Hannah watched them quietly, trying not to let the sting of longing reach her eyes. She had grown up celebrating Christmas with her mother every year, making ornaments from scratch, baking sugar cookies in old aluminum trays, and wrapping gifts in mismatched paper. Now she had nothing left but the memory of a woman she missed more than she could bear. She pressed her hands around the warm cup of coffee in front of her, more for comfort than taste. The heat soothed her cold fingers, but nothing could soothe the ache inside. She wondered if anyone would notice if she simply disappeared. The thought frightened her, yet it felt honest. Just when she lowered her gaze, the sound of soft footsteps approached her table. Hannah didn't look up immediately. She assumed it was a server. But then she heard a small, gentle voice, bright and innocent, as if wrapped in its own little ribbon of warmth. "Daddy? Why is that lady sitting alone on Christmas? Can we help her too?" Hannah blinked and looked up slowly. A little girl, about 5 or 6, stood beside her wearing a red polka-dot dress and holding a tiny candy cane. Beside her was a tall man in a cream-colored sweater, his expression gentle yet apologetic. He had the calm, reassuring presence of someone who carried his kindness naturally without effort. His name, she learned later, was Michael Carter, a single father who had brought his daughter Grace for a special Christmas dinner after a year that had tested their strength too. At first, Michael apologized softly, trying to pull Grace back, but the child shook her head stubbornly and stepped closer. Hannah felt her heart twist at the sincerity in the girl's eyes. Grace wasn't staring out of pity. She was staring with a warmth Hannah hadn't felt from another soul in a long time. Before she could respond, the little girl placed the candy cane on Hannah's table and said, "Merry Christmas." Something in Hannah broke, not in a painful way, but like a thin sheet of ice cracking just enough to let sunlight in. Her throat tightened, and for a moment she couldn't speak. Michael smiled gently and asked if she would like some company, only if she felt comfortable. Hannah hesitated, unsure if she deserved the kindness of strangers. But the little girl's small hand slipped into hers without waiting for permission, and suddenly, Hannah felt anchored, present, seen. Michael guided Grace to pull up an empty chair, and the next thing Hannah knew, she wasn't alone anymore. Grace chatted happily about the gingerbread house she had tried to build that morning. The snowman, she insisted, looked like a dinosaur, and her wish that Santa would bring her a new storybook. Hannah listened, her heart gradually thawing with each innocent word, each smile, each moment that reminded her what human connection felt like. Michael watched the two of them with a gentle pride, as if seeing Hannah smile brought relief to something he hadn't spoken out loud. He told Hannah he understood what lonely Christmas nights felt like. He had lost his wife 3 years earlier, and for a long time he had struggled to make the holiday feel like something more than a reminder of what was gone. Grace had been his lifeline, his reason to stand up, to keep going, to gently rebuild the pieces of his life one day at a time. As the hours passed, Hannah felt herself slowly unraveling, not in weakness, but in truth. She shared pieces of her story, enough for them to understand the emptiness she had been carrying. Michael listened without judgment. Grace, sensing Hannah's sadness in only the way children can, leaned against her arm, offering comfort without even realizing it. The restaurant staff dimmed the lights slightly as closing time approached, and the last guests began to leave. Hannah hadn't realized how late it had become. Michael offered her a ride home since heavy snow had begun falling again outside. Normally, she would have declined, but something about the sincerity in his eyes, the soft way Grace held her hand, made her accept. They walked out together into the cold night. The street glowed with white lights wrapped around trees, and the air felt crisp and magical. Grace insisted on walking between them, holding both their hands like she was uniting two broken pieces of the same fragile heart. Inside Michael's car, Christmas music played softly, filling the silence with warmth. When they reached Hannah's apartment building, she felt a tug of sadness, not because she was going home, but because a part of her didn't want the night to end. Before she stepped out, Grace leaned forward and wrapped her arms around her in a tiny, warm hug. "We'll see you again, right?" she asked, her voice hopeful. Hannah promised she would like that very much. Michael smiled, a smile that carried both gratitude and understanding. He handed her a small paper bag with leftover cookies Grace had insisted she take. "No one should feel alone on Christmas," he said softly. Hannah nodded, fighting back tears she hadn't shed in months. Inside her apartment, she set the cookies on the table and sank onto the couch. For the first time in a long while, her home didn't feel like a cave of loneliness. It felt less empty. She thought about Michael's gentle warmth, Grace's pure kindness, and the way their presence had reminded her that life had not forgotten her after all. Hope wasn't lost. It had simply been waiting for the right moment to return. If this story has touched your heart, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue telling stories that inspire and heal. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what act of kindness changed your life the most? And in that quiet apartment, with snow still falling softly outside, Hannah whispered a small prayer of gratitude. Christmas had given her something she didn't even know she still deserved. A chance to feel human again, a chance to feel seen, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of something beautiful.